Okay, I'd like to make a general point and then ask a question. My general point is this, that given that we are rerunning the debate of the referendum now, and it may happen again and again and again as we go through these amendments, I would like all of us to be aware that there is a job of work to be done here for the women and the pregnant people of this country. We made a commitment to them. And if we're going to keep rerunning the debates that we had over and over again, we are doing a complete disservice to the entire health service in Ireland, particularly for women. But what's interesting about this is that it wasn't ruled out of order. If it suggested that it could be unconstitutional, that it flies in the face of the spirit of removing the Eighth Amendment, that it's morally wrong, that it's regrettable, how was that left in? And two motions that call for the extension of the services to people in Northern Ireland were ruled out of order. When you're talking about refusing to extend the service to women who live less than 90 miles up the road, that should be more of our debate about inclusivity rather than going over and rehashing the long and tough debates that we had for months and months and years in this country. This should have been ruled out of order and those two should have been left in. My question to the committee or to the Minister is, why did that happen? Why were those two ruled out of order and something that looks as unconstitutional as this is was left in?
I have no role in the ruling in or out of it.
Deputy Smith, Brid Smith.
Thanks. Just a couple of points to add to what's already been said. First of all, the chill factor of the 14 years, it does jump out of the page, and it is something that looms very darkly over all of this. And we are in favour of removing the entire section on offences because. Let's compare it. It may well have a lot to do with how we define this legislation, and that's why we think the title is important, the regulation of women's health. So let's say you're regulating men's health. Would you have to assert in there that it shall be illegal and subject to 14 years if somebody forces a man to have a vasectomy, for example, which is about his reproductive health? You would not, because that is already governed by legislation that covers offences against the person, grievous bodily harm, other crimes that are legislated for. And likewise, there's other legislation if a woman was forced against her will by some nasty lunatic or dangerous person to have an abortion. There are other sections of the law that can deal with that deal with violence against the person anyway, and that carry very hefty sentences. So given what we're trying to do here, which is, whether the Minister agrees to call it what it needs to be called in the end and call the spade, to regulate for abortion, this should not be in there, because it is saying that is an offence to carry out a procedure on somebody that is already covered by other legislation if anyone were to force a violent act against the will of an individual. It's already covered out there. And just to bring you back to the last debate, Minister, about Deputy Nolan's motion on making people pay for the services, you said yourself that you were forcing, by making women pay for the pill, that you're forcing them to go on the internet. So quite correctly, you oppose that. So if we can create a legislative framework around the regulation of women's health, where they have access, full, free, safe, legal access to abortion, then the need to go on the internet will not need to be covered by this section that you're now proposing to push for. We would like to see it entirely removed.
Thank you, Deputy Smith.